officially starting the meeting at 6:05. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. So, folks, welcome to our Gualala Municipal Advisory Council February 4th meeting. We're still doing everything by Zoom meeting, so virtual meeting. So here we go. Introductions. The four of us are all here. That would be Tom Murphy, Don Hess, Melissa Finley, and myself, Robert Youngling, on the council. So we've got a quorum. Do we have any announcements tonight? Maybe I do. I'm just wondering if you all received a copy. Am I still, you hearing me?
Yep.
Okay. Share screen. Post disabled attendee screen sharing. Okay. I just wanted to check.
Sorry,
if
Robert.
you all
Robert, do you need to share?
There. Okay.
Do you need to?
Do I need to?
Yes.
I guess not, but it's nice to see all your faces.
Oh, I thought you were trying to share a screen.
No, I was just wondering why everybody left me.
Oh, no, we're all here.
Okay. I was just wondering, as an announcement, if you all received your annual Form 700. That is the statement of economic interests. We receive that from the county every year.
I received it.
That's just an announcement. So we can talk about it later, Don and Melissa.
It's good to know that you did receive it, because I received it from Ms. Bartolome, the
Right.
auditor. And so
Okay.
I forwarded that immediately the day I received it. It's good to know that you guys got it.
Okay, good. Then are there any other announcements? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes from the 7th of January.
Unless somebody
Anybody
has
like to
some,
make a motion?
unless anybody has any amendments, I would go ahead and move for approval of the minutes for January 7.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second that
Melissa,
motion.
Don? Okay, Don? So I'll take a roll call vote on that. Tom?
Aye.
Melissa?
Abstain.
Abstain? Don?
Yeah.
Aye.
And Robert? Aye. That was on the 7th of January, those meeting minutes. Approval of the discussion notes from the 3rd of December. I don't think we need to do that. We're just going to file those notes away as per our conversations with the county clerk.
That's correct.
Okay. So correspondence, we usually just acknowledge that we've received all of this correspondence. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So moving right along to 2D, approval of the agenda. Do we need to edit anything on the agenda, or are we good like it is?
Make one minor adjustment for item 2CI. It says GAMP instead of GMAC.
I.
In correspondence, first item in correspondence says GAMP instead of GMAC. Just a typo.
Oh, that's okay.
Item 1. See what? See which? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
I'm sorry, it's 2CI.
2CI. Oh, GAMAC. Okay. Thank you.
And
I'm sorry.
that's fine. So I have no other changes.
Okay, well, we strive for perfection there, it looks like. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda, tonight's February 4th agenda as just amended?
Move to approve as amended.
Okay, do we have a second? Don or Melissa, a second?
Yep, second that.
Okay, let's take a vote on that. Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And Robert? Aye. Okay, so we've approved the agenda. Then let's move on to number 3, public input on non-agenda items. Anybody have any input on non-agenda items? Who is all here? Just our law enforcement, Melissa, Dawn, Aaron? Okay, then we'll go right on. We have no public input. Let's go right on to number 4, Mendocino County Law Enforcement report. Who would like to start from one of you three? We got lots of interesting stuff, I hear. Matt, you want to start?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So the first month in the new year was pretty darn busy on the South Coast. We had 2 search and rescue callouts, one in Gualala and one in Elk. Sad to report, but that both the subjects were found to be deceased. So that was a little bit of sad news here and one from the other day. It's been a tough month for coroner's cases for county just this month, I believe, which would put us on track for 600 for the year. We normally run around 300. Here we were into the 450. So that's a little bit concerning. Have to take a good hard look in our communities, trying to keep people.
Excuse me. Is anybody else having trouble hearing Matt?
Yeah, it's breaking up.
Matt, you're breaking up a little bit. I hear your voice in the background, but it's coming in and out. Maybe you're just a little too far from the mic.
Perhaps that's it. Is this any better, John?
That's much better. Thank you.
Sounds much better.
Right. Robert, can you hear me also?
Yeah, that seems to be better.
Okay.
Repeat what you said, because I didn't catch it at all.
Okay, well, we'll start over again.
Thank you so much.
So January was a pretty tough month for the South Coast. We've had 2 search and rescue callouts, and both of the subjects were found to be deceased. One was basically New Year's Eve near Gualala, and the other one was just the other day in Elk. I think that we're going to have to take a good hard look at what's going on in our communities. Our coroner's cases, our numbers are way up. We've had, I believe, 50 or right at 50 for the month of January. And normally we would run somewhere about 26 per month for an average. We go between 280 and 320 a year. And so with 50 in a month, that puts us on track for 600, which, we're seeing more suicides, more overdoses and things like that. And a lot of it, I'm afraid to say, is just a lot of isolation and despair. So let's keep working on staying connected with our families, friends, neighbors. Let's connect over the phone. Let's do it in a good, safe manner, but we got to work harder on staying connected. We had that burglar down there on the South Coast in the Gualala area. And with the assistance of the community, we were able to pick him up pretty quickly. That $0 bail schedule, the deputies were able to get him arrested, recover stolen property, and then they petitioned the Superior Court for a bail. And the Superior Court judge, as opposed to just releasing him like they have been, when we petition them, if we can show that there's a serious concern for the community, the judge will set a bail. And so the judge set a $50,000 bail on that. And then I would ask Lieutenant Comer to go into the details on that one, because he was much more closely connected to the case.
All right.
Good evening.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, the last month, besides February, we've had kind of an increase in thefts in the Gualala area. I think the majority or the target is tools. One was up on the ridge that was the result of this case where the property was recovered, and I believe the entirety of the property was recovered from a break-in at a business up near the airport. During that arrest, the deputies that responded did a very good investigation that allowed them to search the individual involved. And during that search, also a firearm was recovered, as well as what was suspected as a fairly large amount of fentanyl. So that was a good person to take off the street down there. And he is also suspect to these other thefts or burglaries that we're investigating currently. And those cases are still under investigation. So we're still working on those ones to connect the dots.
All right, now we get to Mr. Finnegan, right? To tell
If I can get it to work. There we go. Calling in on my cell phone, I apologize. Good to be here, Sergeant Finnegan with the CHP. Just wanted to touch base. I know a lot of the agenda, and there's been a lot going on with the Caltrans project and input on that. But from the Highway Patrol's perspective, we've had a chance to increase patrols in the area. You know, we can't always be everywhere, unfortunately. You know, and as you guys saw today, there was a rear ender there at Ocean Drive at we had one patient flown out and with just complaint of pain, somewhat mild to moderate injuries, but for precautionary reasons and distance and transportation times, they flew him to Santa Rosa. And then the other party was just minor injuries. So I'm glad that it wasn't more serious. But we do appreciate you guys calling in with traffic complaints. Keep those coming. Open lines of communication, you know, as the sheriff was encouraging us to communicate within our own families, but also with each other. Allied agencies, law enforcement agencies here on the coast. Lieutenant Comer, I appreciate his efforts getting us all working together and communicating, and just appreciate you guys incorporating us into your meeting as well.
Are you at liberty to say what the cause of that accident was, Aaron?
I would be at liberty. I do not know though. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
I would have to look it
Speeding
up.
or?
I can divert my attention very briefly. It shouldn't take me too long to pull it up.
Yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about that, Aaron. Yeah, especially if it was both vehicles southbound on one. From the damage I saw, it looked like it might not have been. So I'd be curious to know the circumstance there.
Yeah, I apologize. Because of the injury level being somewhat mild to moderate, it didn't rise to the threshold for us to do a press release or anything of that nature. And so I didn't get a summary from the officer as I might in that circumstance. But I do have access to our report system, and he did put in the preliminary information, so I can pull that up just briefly if you bear with me for a second.
Sure.
It was a rear ender on one, just north of the Ocean Drive roadway edge prolongation. And so I do both of them were southbound one in the 25 zone.
Okay. Yeah.
Looking in my rearview mirror when I was coming to town, it looked like it was a lot of frontal damage on the one on a little truck.
Correct. Yeah. So that would have been a Toyota Tacoma rear-ended another Toyota Tacoma.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well, that's the least surprising of that is that it's southbound one. That's not the first injury accident at that intersection in that circumstance on southbound lanes. So I know Caltrans would be interested in that one.
correct. Yeah. And we do have a system, and I don't know the acronym, what it stands for, but it's called SWITTers. And once our reports are finalized, they automatically get uploaded, and you know, DOT and other agencies automatically interface with that and see the statistical analysis for the location and the incident. But you know, the cause was speed. I don't have a summary. You know, even so, if the truck ahead was stopped waiting to say make a left turn, waiting for northbound traffic to clear, and the car behind him didn't realize that he was stopped, even if the person behind him was going 25 miles an hour within the speed limit, it still would be coded as an unsafe speed for conditions, which would be the condition of a stopped vehicle ahead. Safe speed would be to stop behind them. So without the summary from the officer, which will be available in the next 7 days or so, I wouldn't know the statements or the speeds of each individual vehicle at the time.
No problem. Thanks very much for that, Sergeant. I appreciate that.
I got another question. I got another question for all three of you.
Yeah, definitely.
JD, Matt, and Aaron. Do we, on that theft issue that Mr. Comer was talking about, do we experience people doing the stealing of the catalytic converters up here, up in our area, or not?
Well,
We haven't experienced much of that. The highway patrol might be able to tell you more. The only time the sheriff's office would deal with that is if the vehicle was in a home when it, or, you know, in a garage when it happened, because that would qualify as a burglary. The highway patrol normally would take 10852s or vehicle tamperings. That's what it would fall under.
Okay. Because you see a lot of that on the news lately down in the Bay Area and stuff. And so I was wondering if we experience that up here.
Well, and it's not just that they're going through. It's theft of airbags. It's, you know, you sell those on the black market to a shop that would normally pay $1,400 for them. And when they pay $100 for them, they still stick the consumer with that. It's a crummy way to eventually raise your profit margin.
Wow. Okay.
And Sheriff, I just wanted to comment on the sad news about the number of coroner's cases, and particularly about the isolation. And I'm sitting here racking my brain to think, what could we do about this? And I'm wondering if maybe that's a question we'll direct to our local health authorities and see if we can do a town meeting or something on that issue. But I wish we could do more to reach out to people right now. It's very, very hard to do under COVID, but maybe they have some ideas as well.
I've been trying to work with the schools quite a bit, and I know that they're doing a lot of outreach with the youth, but we're seeing issues in people in retirement age now. Yeah. And that has, you know, one of the big things is people in retirement age in Mendocino County, historically, we have so much work done by our nonprofits and whatnot, by people who are in retirement age for a lot of different reasons. And one of it is just this incredible work ethic that they were raised with. And when folks are isolated and they aren't doing things that are fulfilling to them, or think about how many people in that retirement age are still serving the community. When they don't have the ability to do that, you know, it's worse than just isolation at that point. It's also some despair.
Yeah. Well, it's your sad days, and, you know, we need to get more love out there.
Yeah.
The network has counselors who are working with teenagers as well as families regarding isolation and suicide, and they are really trying to stay on top of that, and they have counselors available. So please let people know that if they want to talk with anyone, please call Action Network, and they will help. They will put a counselor online immediately for you.
And I know we
really incredible.
I know we briefly discussed this on a meeting last week for you guys down on the South Coast, but also keep in mind that Robin Thomas serves your area with Health and Human Services, and she's a good asset for those types of situations.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Do we have any other questions of law enforcement? Melissa, Don?
No.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for attending, you three.
Nice to have all three of you here.
Really
Well,
good.
thanks for having us. And we appreciate the conversation. We're all looking forward to when we can all meet back up in person again.
Right
Yeah.
on.
For sure. Much better.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you
evening.
so much for your
Good
work.
Taking care of it.
Yeah, drive carefully out there, and thank you so much for your work. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, we
Yeah.
appreciate you, and we appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve some pretty darn good communities. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. See ya.
Thanks.
Um,
Mr. Chairman, we're moving at a blistering pace tonight, and I'm expecting two other guests, which pertain to our next item on the agenda. I suggest that we go on to council matters and then break off from that and take our guests when they arrive. In the meantime, I'm going to go silent for a minute and try to reach them and let them know that we're ready for them.
Okay. We'll wait till you get back, Tom. Otherwise, we'll go right into number 6, council matters.
Yeah, I think you can go ahead right now. GCAP, I don't have anything to add to GCAP tonight. If you could just skip over my 2 items, I'll come back to them.
Okay. well, as far as GCAP, we're going to be waiting around to see what Caltrans does and how the grant materializes. And we'll get back to you probably March, maybe if we know something more on that. The next item would be A. We have A listed as old business, so it would be C that we're up to, housing and economic development. We'll get back to Tom on that. Why don't we go on to D? That's electric vehicle charging station. That's Don by himself at the moment. Well, I'm kind of a part of it, but primarily Don. Do you have anything for
Okay.
us, Don?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we've made maybe a little progress. I don't know, it's a bit premature to say, but also if you hear a little beep behind me every now and then, it's because I'm in Oakland and where I'm at needs a battery placed in a smoke detector. So I can't do it right now. I need to get on the ladder and everything. Anyway, I hope that doesn't bother anybody. At the suggestion of Janet Orth from MCOG, I wrote a letter to Ted Williams, Supervisor Ted Williams, and the Director of Transportation for Mendocino County, and that's Howard Deshiel. And basically, this was about the possibility of acquiring a piece of land, specifically the northern end of the Caltrans pullout in Gualala, for the express purpose of eventually placing a public electric vehicle charging station there. And I pointed out that, you know, this actually is a location that has sort of been in the minds of people for years now. This goes back to the county's zero emission vehicle report that they did a number of years ago, and then they updated it in 2019. You know, this report basically states that it is recommended that Gualala have an electric vehicle charging station, a public one, and that the location that they note in their report is Caltrans right of way. Now that doesn't say pull out, but you know, where else would it be? I don't know. Anyway, and I think Robert, you were kind of involved in that a little bit at the time. This was a number of years ago. And then we noticed, of course, that in the streetscape plans 4A and 4B, that in fact Caltrans had made some notes in that plan for a possible EV charging station in that exact location. Right. So it's in Caltrans' mind already, and we've actually talked to a Caltrans manager directly about it, and that was a little over a year ago. So this is not a new idea. But the reason I'm trying to pursue this at this point is because we haven't really made much progress in trying to get EV charging station anywhere else in town. And so it was suggested by Janet to contact Ted and Howard, because this then would become a county matter. And this, according to what Howard indicated in responding, is that this is fairly common. I mean, Caltrans does this all the time, apparently. Mendocino County has gotten chunks of land from Caltrans. So it's not an unusual thing. And oftentimes it's done because either A, there's a need for it, or B, Caltrans doesn't want the responsibility for the land anymore, so they just hand it over to the county. And generally, Caltrans handles virtually all costs of doing this. So I, brought that up as an idea, and Howard basically, said, well, yeah, this could be done, but it could take years, and by the time it's done, he might not even be around anymore. I don't know. Anyway, it ended with, okay, who's going to pursue this now with Caltrans and try to get the ball rolling? Howard suggested that it be Janet Orth, because apparently on MCOG, Caltrans sits on MCOG. Is that true, Robert? I don't know.
Maybe a representative from Caltrans sits on MCOG, or they work.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not positive on that, but they do work hand in hand, for instance, on the streetscape.
Often a Caltrans
Right.
representative will be at MCOG. They're not on MCOG.
I know they're not on it, okay, but they're generally present for the meetings, and they may contribute information or share information.
Point
Anyway.
of order, please.
Melissa?
Yeah. You're talking about the north end of the pullout on the south end of Gualala, right?
That is
Right.
correct, yeah.
We talked about this a year and a half ago, and everyone said, on second thought, those things are pretty, and we have little enough coast with a clear view of the ocean as it is. It'll uglify our view. We don't want it. We said, okay, we don't want it. And we dropped any idea of having one. So I'm not real crazy about bringing it up, putting it there again to go over. No, it's not attractive. We don't want it in our view between us and the ocean. Yeah, we want one. I'm not saying, I'm not a Luddite. I'm not saying we don't want one, but we want one where it's not interfering with our ocean view.
Robert?
Well, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, that's actually not my recollection. My recollection was that there was concern about that from the Redwood Coast folks, but the council came to the conclusion that there was room for both the trail and the chargers, and that the chargers could be at the north end, and it would not block the view because the only view you'd have is of the concrete wall of the View restaurant.
That's not what I remember talking about, because if it stands clear of the restaurant, it'll be in between the road and the ocean. That's the only way to put it there, unless you put flat dash against the building. And it's,
Maybe Robert or Don remember that.
Well,
You all
it's
know-
unclear.
Yeah, go ahead,
system
Don.
said, no go. Put it somewhere else. Put it on the other side of the road. Put it up near trains. Anything.
I don't recall that.
I
Well,
do.
there's no sense in arguing about it at this point, but we all were looking at that ugly above ground transformer there, which is needed for electric charging station. And if they were all facing that cement wall of the view, it would be right hugging the property line in that area. And I remember we were saying that there could be many compatible uses at that pullout area. We got discussing a lot of other things too, if you guys remember. A public restroom, an area for people to walk, for handicap. We discussed so many things at one meeting, but I'm glad Don wrote the letter, because it keeps it in MCOG and Caltrans's minds that Gualala needs a public electric charging station. If other private parties want to do it also, that's fine and good in another location. But Don, I mean, I think it's great you're pursuing this still, and it keeps it in the forefront.
Well, getting back to sort of what Melissa brought up, yeah, I do recall there was some opposition, and the opposition to putting it in that place was from RCLC, because they sort of feel, oh, this area should all be, I don't know, for us, so our people who visit Mill Bend can park there. But, this is public property. This is not RCLC property. And I feel strongly that there's a case can be made that it should be multi-use. The charging stations would only take up a small portion of the north end of that big parking area. And as far as it looking ugly or something, Heck, I mean, you look out there now and there's all kinds of vehicles parked there, some ugly, others okay. I mean, it's not necessarily a beautiful place. There is a view, you
I'm
know,
going to share a
but
screen here so you can take a look at this, Don.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good, Tom.
I mean, I would say, I mean, just off the top of my head, the charging station area might be 10% of that. Right?
Right there.
Yeah, right in there.
See,
So,
there's that transformer, and the chargers
Right.
could be right over here, and it wouldn't block the
Exactly.
view.
Well, certainly no worse than a vehicle being parked there. I don't think there'd
No.
be much difference.
It's like up in Elk. There'd be a couple of chargers there, or maybe 3 or 4. I don't know how many, but it would
Yeah,
part of the landscape, part of the, it wouldn't be that bad.
exactly. So, and certainly we, as a council, we did not give up on this spot.
Nope.
We just, you know, we tried then, of course, in the intervening months to find people who would apply for the Cal EVIP funding. And we tried the community center, that didn't work. Apparently there were a couple applications for Cal EVIP. They did not get approved. And I don't know, right now with COVID and everything, the local businesses probably don't have a lot of money to sink their own funds into this kind of thing. So, okay, and the other reason I'm pursuing this now more is because of the change of administration in Washington.
Right.
And what Biden has said he's going to do to move our country off of fossil fuels for transportation. And that is to emphasize and promote electric vehicles. This is going to happen. We know this is direction everything's moving and will move. And it is very likely that there will be additional funding available. I think somebody in the Biden administration mentioned 500,000 EV chargers, you know, throughout the country. I think we want to be, I think we want to be in a position where we can apply for that funding and get it as soon as we can, because we've been waiting a long time for this. And there is a need for a fast charger on the coast of Mendocino.
Right.
There are more and more electric vehicles on the road, and that number is only going to go up. So that's why I'm giving this a new push right now after we weren't successful with the Cal EVIP program.
Good, Don. Thank you. Keep pushing. Tom.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention 2 things. Mary Ann Petrillo has joined us, and I just wanted to welcome her. And she reminded me that GM just announced that it is planning to put all its vehicles on electric by 2035, all of GM. Right. The other automakers won't be far behind. Audi's already out in front. We have a lot of Teslas at Sea Ranch. They require a different charger. We may get into kind of an Apple PC thing sometime in the future. Hopefully not. But
the Teslas can use the generic standard ones.
Okay,
they just need an adapter. So.
Well, I know I have relatives who have a Tesla, and we were looking for the closest charger to Gualala for people coming out from the Bay Area, and I think it was Petaluma was the first publicly available one. There's talk about one at Sea Ranch Lodge, but I don't think that's open or will be public. And there are a couple of Tesla chargers further north, but they are for in-guests only at certain resorts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry,
it's
Melissa.
Electric charge.
Melissa, do you have something to say?
Point Arena. Yes, Point Arena has a 2-station. It's a level 2 charger, so it's not a fast charger. Tesla can charge there. They need an adapter, and I've seen a Tesla car parked there charging up, so they can do it, but it takes a lot longer, especially with a Tesla. Tesla has a very big battery. It has a long range. It's a long range electric vehicle, has a large battery. If you tried to charge that with a slower charger, you'd be sitting there half a day or a whole day. So Tesla people, they like superchargers. The supercharger is the fast charger that Tesla makes. And there is a fast charger that is an industry standard, CHAdeMO, and there's an adapter that you just use with the Tesla, and then it can get a fast charge from that fast charger. So that's the way we would go with a standard approach. Problem with Tesla is it's non-standard. It's specific to Tesla. No other electric vehicle can charge with Tesla. Nobody. But Tesla can charge with the standard ones. So you don't put in a Tesla specific charger.
Well,
Thanks, Don.
I think it's great we're talking about one location, but reality check here, in 15 years, all new cars could be electric. We may need 30 chargers. It's
Right.
not unreasonable to think that. The gas stations may want to change one of their aisles to electric charging. People don't want to wait in line to get charged. They don't want to spend 20 minutes waiting for somebody else to get charged, or worse, 5 people to get charged. So we're going to need multiple chargers. This is a tourist destination. We're isolated.
Yeah.
People are coming up from the Bay Area after a long drive. They're going to want to charge their cars. So let's be bullish about this.
Okay, let's give Melissa a chance, then Mary, then we'll move on, okay? Because we got people waiting to talk. Marianne Petrillo, right?
Right.
Okay, Melissa, I see your phone flashing. I think you wanted to say something?
Why is my phone flashing?
I think because you wanted to speak. I'm thinking that anyway. Okay, do you have anything to say?
Maybe it's because I'm charging my phone because it was nearly dead.
Uh-oh, do you have a Tesla charger?
For the phone.
I don't even have a Tesla phone. If Tesla were a phone, I'm working with a Model T.
Okay, on to Mary, then we'll move on.
I just wanted to say, has anyone seen the charging station that the Wildflower Motel has in Point Arena? I think they have 1 or 2 of them, and I don't know what type they are. They're probably just generic, but I was just inquiring.
Yeah, they are standard. They're level 2 chargers. I've seen them. Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks so much, Don, for pursuing this, okay?
Okay, and I'll keep you up to date.
All right.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, so Tom, should we move back to item number 5?
Yes, Marianne Petrillo is here from CEO of the West Business Development Center. I believe you're here to talk about Move 2030 tonight, Marianne. I'm not even, didn't even get an official agenda. And also Una Wirkebau is back with us. Una was at our notorious August meeting and sat all the way through it. God bless her. And wrote a very nice letter to the editor after that as well. But Una has done a fantastic job with us on Move 2030. I want to say that in front of Marianne because that's her boss. And we value her services very highly, and we'll be talking a little bit more about this later on tonight if you don't get to it first, Marianne. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Great.
Go for it.
Well, Una, do you want to kick it off, and then I'll start because you have been working so closely with folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've seen my face around. I have had the pleasure of learning so much about all of our different rural locations, Gualala being one of them. And you are also uniquely challenged with so many amazing opportunities. It's just been really quite wonderful learning about all of the intricacies of your communities. And it's coming to a head now. We've been gathering data for about a year, and it's about time to make a presentation to our Board of Supervisors about next steps. And so Marianne is going to kind of bring you up to speed with where we are, and hope that you are just as passionate about your communities as we move forward as you have been for the past year that I've been spending with you. So with that, Marianne has a screen to share, and I'll let her take it away.
So let me first of all say hi, everyone. It's nice to see you. It's, you know, I have very good memories of going down you know, in person to Gualala. Of course, now we only see people two-dimensionally. So it's nice to see you, Mary and Robert and Don and Melissa and everybody who's on the call. So this is great. Unfortunately, we live in a two-dimensional space now. And so this is how we all kind of coordinate and collaborate these days. And I'm really thrilled, of course, that Una has been, you know, my right-hand person on all of this Move 2030, and, you know, has not only been, you know, an excellent representative of the opportunities and potential, but really gathering the information and doing the analysis. So, you know, thank you, Una, for doing all that. It takes hours and hours of patience, of, you know, listening and understanding. And what we're looking for a lot is common threads, you know, common threads. It's things that are happening in every community in and around the county. So with that, let me go ahead and share these slides. And again, this is really, think about this kind of as an update. It's a very high level, but it's just to sort of give you a sense of where we're at right now and where we've come from, because I know not everybody has been intimately involved in this work. But the thing to always remember is that the work was begun and initiated through an EDA grant that was specifically designed to help the County of Mendocino develop an economic recovery and resiliency plan. It also included information about a broadband implementation plan, an economic coordinator, and digital learning hubs. What I'm going to talk to you today about is primarily the digital learning hub, primarily the Move 2030 work, the recovery plan, but there are other aspects of the EDA grant. And ironically, you know, when this first was initiated, as I said, it was from the 2017 fires. And we thought that that was the economic disaster of our lifetime, right? And we set about thinking about resiliency in the context of climate change, technology innovations that are rapidly changing everything we do, and demographics in our county, which of course is stagnant and, you know, has very high senior citizen rate. And, you know, these will be significant impacts and probably will continue to be significant impacts over time. But then the pandemic came. And so, you know, the irony here is that you start out a resiliency plan with one thing in mind because you're trying to solve for one disaster, but what the pandemic has done to us is, of course, on a global scale, changed everything. It changed how we work. It changed this conversation that we're having here today. It changed everything that businesses are rethinking about themselves and what they do. It's changed governments. It's changed healthcare, and it's continuing to change it. And even when the day comes that we go back to a normal, as everybody has been saying, it is indeed going to be a new normal. And so with that, we really plowed ahead through 2020, even with all of the unknowns that the pandemic has brought upon us, to say we have to take this opportunity to really be thinking about what opportunities can there be to make Mendocino a more vibrant economy. And the work that the MACs do, you know, Una and I are both in agreement. We consider that really important because you are representing the remote regions of the county. We all know all too well that, you know, the cities have their government entities and they're working to, you know, they have funds and they have things that they're doing. But the remote areas of the county where a lot of commerce does happen is not getting as fully fleshed out. And so I encourage you after this presentation, if you haven't already looked at the new website, it has everything that I'm going to talk about here today and then some in much more detail. And it's an ever evolving website. So we want people to be assured to keep going back to it and looking, and it will keep everybody, of course, posted when new things do go up on the site. But the way to think about Move 2030 in terms of what we have done is the first phase was establishing the governance and how the project management was going to happen and the steering committee and getting coordination begun. The second phase of this is the data research. And, you know, it was in earnest, I would say, probably in the early spring months, just about when COVID hit. but it has gone on really through almost the entire year, because what we did was not just say, oh, well, let's get this economist to talk about this one aspect and, you know, multipliers or, you know, in specifics. We wanted to make sure that we were looking at data that is coming from the cities. We took into account all of the different MACs, and yourself included, who put together economic resiliency plans. We're looking at third-party economic reports from Beacon and other industry leaders, and then of course county forecasts. And so we really wanted, again, look for common themes, threads, problems, opportunities, etc. The third phase of this is one, and I know Tom and many of you others might have participated in this, which is really community engagement. This is where we really began in a very formal facilitation to gather groups of people across the county. And remember, with COVID, it actually, we thought at first it was going to be harder because it was all virtual, but in many ways, we got a much bigger representation across the county by doing these working groups. So a community economic action plan was put together, and think of it as the communities were telling us all what they saw would help as making the county more resilient. And they thought about it a lot in terms of projects. And I'm going to highlight a few of them in my next slide. But the complete outline of everything that was discussed and determined is in this document that you can download on the website. And then finally, you know, we're moving into now, what are the observations? What recommendations do we want to bring to the board? How do we want to continue this? What is this plan? Because a plan should never be, and we never went into this believing that this plan should be a book or a report on the shelf. There's lots of those already that exist in the county. Many of you may have it on your shelves. This we see as a living entity that will need nurturing and cultivation in order for us to reach new levels over the next 10 years. This slide just highlights a few of the sort of big picture items that were came out of some of the community conversations. Obviously, our business network needs help. It needs help in all different areas, not just because of COVID, but we need help in things like ordinances and streamlining permits. We need more, you know, startup mentality and working groups. We need to understand the remote workers and pull together councils and marketplaces. So there's a whole host of things that developing a strong business community within the county is going to help. Apprenticeship programs and co-ops were big, not only for the agricultural community, but even for cannabis. And these are different kinds of business models and different ways of mentoring, which leads, of course, to developing talent in the county. This, of course, leads to trade schools, which a lot of community groups, residents, and people talked about. And there's challenges, no doubt, with all of these big ideas, but these are all big opportunities too, as you can see, that potentially can have a great outcome. And again, this is a synthesis of what is coming out of the economic action plan. Everyone knows that technology is not only not going away, but we are making it as part of our education, our healthcare, and our business and economy. If you don't have the access, if you don't have the understanding and the skills and the knowledge, you're going to be left farther and farther behind. Everybody across the board was aware of that. We chose, because we know that there are people working on broadband initiatives, and I can talk about this a little bit after this presentation. Our focus in this group was really about developing the skill sets that people needed and up-leveling that and doing more in the education arena, not so much on just solving the broadband problem or the lack of broadband, but that is in the works, and that is part of the overall EDA grant. And then sustainable infrastructure. So you were talking about charging stations. I mean, that's just one example, but microgrids, the group that talked about microgrids and solar power storage and locations of where that is, and the realization that the PSPS could be here for a while, and what the grids look like, and how do we be energy independent over time and what that does for public safety. So these are things that got many, many people very, very excited about doing. And what we want to do is, you know, synthesize this, get it into the understanding of community leaders, government leaders, private enterprises, and, you know, folks or organizations and nonprofit like myself, to look for funding for some of these, because we do believe truly that these initiatives could have a lasting effect. But overall, and this is really my last slide, overall, the observations that we found coming across all of the conversations, and remember there was many more conversations besides just the ones that were done in the working groups. Foundationally, as a county, we need to develop our local talent anywhere and everywhere. We need and must really reconsider how we have our permitting licensing processes. And also this goes to ordinances if we want any chance of really stimulating the economy. And this can't be done over time. We've already know that COVID has changed everything. So the streamlining and automating of permits and licensing is the only way that we are ultimately going to grow. Utilization of technology to not only improve service delivery, but also better customer service needs to be foundational, and common, consistent, and regular data collection. And I'm sure you've all experienced this, so I'm not saying anything new, but the reality is that without continually analyzing and getting data and then giving that data back to the community, better decisions are going to be made. And this goes for whether it's a broadband or whether it's a skills training and what skills are needed. We need to be collecting, whether it's on a county or city level, so that everybody can have the same data and be looking at it to make decisions for their community. And then we started to talk about things that are transformational. Oh, sorry. And these go right to the heart of towns like Gualala, right? Uncovering and developing assets with economic potential. So Tom, I know, like you talked about the hotel and you talked about places where we know that there are assets in and around the county that have huge economic potential. We need to analyze that. We need to get a feasibility study, and we need to move on some of those things. Over this 10-year period, we've got to start to realize that we do have assets that are worthy of growing in our communities. We also realize that revitalizing growing communities of commerce is really important. So think about the development of downtowns, the development of smaller areas, whether it's Anderson Valley, Gualala, Westport, Laytonville. These are communities of commerce. They're not, Fort Bragg is doing things, Ukiah is doing things, we understand that, but there are small communities that are having more and more people come into them, and they see the potential, of greater opportunities to have commerce and a thriving downtowns. Establishing an economic development hub, so there needs to be something to carry these and to be accountable for carrying some of these projects forward in collaboration and communication with other public and private entities. And then finally, of course, this is true for all of us, providing timely, accurate, and coordinated communications. And we put that in there, and you could probably see how even the communications around healthcare orders and vaccines and things like that sometimes is not always communicated or not always coordinated, and each of those become very, very important. So these are kind of big observations that we want to share with our Board of Supervisors, because we have heard these consistently, sometimes loud, sometimes soft, throughout the county in every place that we go. So again, this is an update, and also one of the reasons that we are coming to you, and you may want to share this with your community. I know there's only a few of you on the call here today, but I encourage you to share it, because we want feedback or thoughts, things that you like, things that you think might be missing, because we are preparing for a presentation right now. I believe it's going to be scheduled for March 22nd. And when that is scheduled, we are going to encourage everybody, of course, to come to that meeting, to the Board of Supervisors, and really have an honest and open conversation about economic development and economic strategies that need to be initiated in our county. So I'll stop there to answer questions and talk about any of the side things, but I'd like to know what you're interested in. Thank you. Tom?
Great presentation, Mary Ann. Thank you very much. And I know Una may have a couple of notes to add after this. I'm glad you mentioned the board presentation and writing to the board in support of this initiative. That actually is a separate agenda item on our tonight. I had it under my committee, but we can talk about it now. I put it in as asking board permission, the council's permission to write a letter in support of Move 2030 and your efforts to continue this effort. And I want to know from you, Mary Ann, what happens if the board, this was a one-year program as I understand it, and I'm wondering, has it been extended? Will it be extended? How can we make sure it's extended?
So we don't know. I mean, when the money runs out, we're using up the grant funds, and we have a few more months within this confine as it stands today. So we don't know if it's going to be extended. And there's many individuals and many associations right now who are asking for this kind of work to be continued and this kind of oversight to be continued. So you're not alone, and I would encourage you to do that. I would also encourage, I always believe too that when you write these letters, you should, speak from the heart, speak from what is meaningful to your environment, your particular town and your work, and what you've seen that you like. Move 2030 is not going to do everything, but it certainly is a very collective process. And like I said, what I hope they will focus on are some of the things. When I say they, I'm sorry, let me back up. When I say they, I'm talking specifically now, right or wrong, about the county itself, the Board of Supervisors. I want them to hear the continuing thread, because it's not just Gualala said this. It's like everybody said this. Everybody talked about these things in one form or another, whether you're talking about improving your downtown or you're talking about, needing connectivity so that you can do your business better. There are certain threads that continually happen over and over again. And we really would like to make sure that they make significant changes where the county is able to, and then they support the growth of Move 2030 so that it's a much more collaborative effort with all residents across Mendocino County.
Thank you. And let me just add two things here. One, Robert and I have been working on the Streetscape Committee for a couple of years now. And one thing I've learned through this process is that we have a lovely town, we know that, but we don't always convey that well. Nothing we're talking about here tonight would threaten the charm of Gualala. We want to preserve what makes Gualala great. And we hear loud and clear from folks all the time, don't change it, leave it the way it is. No, what we're talking about here would help sustain it in the way it is by creating opportunities for our young people who now mostly move away for lack of opportunity. On the MAC level, we kind of keep our eye on housing. We have a water moratorium, and these are very complicated issues, but we know we need more worker housing down here. And that's a priority item if we're going to move our economy forward. The Streetscape project, we're bending over backwards to make sure that it amplifies the beauty of Gualala, not replaces it with some kind of monstrous freeway. We want to make sure that everything we do is for the benefit of Gualala and approved by the local community. But we do need help with the hospitality industry, which is a growing part and a very large part of our economy. It's a very low wage industry. But when people come to town, they also support our retail, our restaurants, our other businesses. Critical. You heard us talk about that in terms of the car chargers tonight. You know, our training for workers here. I know electricians who cannot find apprentices, even though they're offering $40, $45 an hour for entry-level workers. And I want to talk to our training people in the county and see if we can get a training program going specifically in that field. The whole construction industry is booming. Our contractors are busy, but the skill levels are lacking, and we can do better there. So these are some of the elements that I'd like to include in our letter to the board, and I will write one if the council gives me permission to do so. And the other thing, you mentioned it, Mary Ann, and thank you for that. But one of the things I've always thought from the start of this is that we have to have a local focus first, and it grows from the local community up to the county level and comes into a cohesive strategy, as you've explained. We always want to look at what's important to Gualala, and Westport will want to look at that. And, you know, any of the other MACs will be looking at what's important in their communities. Working with Una over the past year has been a real delight. She's really led personally a lot of these initiatives, brought a lot of us together. We have a meeting called Big Mac, which brings together the business people from the different MACs. And that's really on fire. That's really growing. We're all learning from one another and learning our differences as well as our commonalities. So heaps of praise on you both. You've both done a wonderful job this year. And I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, if I could, to give me the authority to write to the Board of Supervisors on behalf of the council to support Move 2030 and ask for them to keep it moving forward.
Yes, I'll second that motion if you made it yourself.
I just made it.
Yeah, I just want to say something that this was a overwhelming presentation. There's a lot in this presentation. I want to make sure we all know what website to go to so we can review this. And
Yes.
that's Move 2030, right?
Yes, it's move2030.org. I think Una's going to put it in the chat now. And you should spend some time on the website. There's a lot of information there, a lot of the plan, a lot of how we evolved, what we did, our intention and stuff. And you know, Tom, like when we go into these things, we think that it's going to move in this like track, and you know, it took turns sometimes, and we discovered things, and we went off, and Una was great about collecting this information, so we really knew what was happening in and around the county. I will say that the important things that's one of the reasons why I talked about foundational stuff versus transformational stuff is because I'll use this just as an example. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but you have your hotel there, right? And let's say you have a brilliant idea for what that hotel should be. You could get stuck for years in the permitting process, right, and the ordinance process and the policy process for years. And I have examples of that all over the county. And I'm just feeling like we don't have time anymore. We have to make some decisions. The county has to really rethink their ordinances. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be environmentally sound and sustainable and stuff like that. But look at COVID. COVID forced the county to allow outdoor dining. And frankly, in many of the places now, outdoor dining is really nice. Like outdoor dining is really nice. You didn't have COVID, over your head. There are many, many things that have happened that, you're like, why did they not allow this? I mean, you're not blocking sidewalks. You're not so there's things that I think the counties really could be reviewing and looking at and changing sooner rather than later. We shouldn't be waiting 5 or 6 years to have a change of a policy or an ordinance. We know the data. We know what's coming. We know electric cars are coming. We shouldn't be surprised about that. It's not like we have to wait until 90% of the county is riding electric cars to decide that you're going to do a certain kind of change. We know that these things are coming. So these are the things that I'm also very concerned about, is that they attend to some of the foundational things so that you can do the things in Gualala that you want to do that are transformational. That's important to note.
Yep. It all starts at the core of Gualala, and that's what we're trying to do with the streetscape, because it'll emanate from there. When you mentioned the Gualala Hotel, it went through a many year process already of getting it to the point where it's at. So what is going to be the future use of that hotel? We always talk about the yesterdays of Gualala. Well, you guys are all talking about what's tomorrow brings. So I think that's very refreshing to hear. I mean, Don's report on the electric charging stations. We've got to all start projecting into the future. And you guys, just wonderful presentation, I think. And Tom, thanks for arranging it. It gives us hope.
Marianne volunteered for this, and I gratefully accepted.
Okay. But we have a motion on the table and we have a second. We can still discuss it some more, but then let's vote, okay? Don?
I think Mary had a question too.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, Don seconded? Thank you.
No,
I did.
I didn't have that. The motion was seconded. We just really haven't discussed it much.
We haven't. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I think it's a fine idea to write a letter to the Board of Supervisors regarding this. The only thing I would say is I think I'm hopeful that we keep in mind and really emphasize the importance of actions being compatible with the new world we are entering. And that world is a world of climate change. And so there are a lot of things that the county could do, obviously, to streamline the permitting process, as Marianne mentioned, I'm sure. I just do not want to see, as part of that streamlining, pushing aside very important environmental regulations that we really need. We are blessed to live in an extraordinary part of the state of California, and this area needs to be protected, not only protected, but restored. There are areas that need to be restored so that they can hopefully contribute to a carbon sink that we need to maintain and or expand going forward. The next 10 years are going to be critical as to whether we make the necessary changes to ultimately survive as a species. This is what the scientists are telling us. We have to take that to heart, I think, and sort of build this philosophy of making change within the context of a rapidly changing climate that are consistent with that situation that we're in, so that we're not going down paths that just produce more and more CO2 emissions, just because, well, that's how we've done it in the past to grow our economy, and that's what we know how to do now still, and that's what we're going to do. So, there's trade-offs that are going to have to be made, and I'm just hoping that any kind of economic development plan like this, and I do salute you, Marianne, because what you've done is very comprehensive, and you looked at a lot of different areas, and obviously this was a lot of work you put into this. And I certainly don't have a problem writing a letter, Tom, to the Board of Supervisors relating to this, but I also hope that within that letter, we emphasize that we think it's important that in totality, the steps that we take to move forward and build our economy better, it's all consistent with the need to adjust for climate change and make serious adjustments.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
Here, here.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Don,
Melissa.
I just like to comment on Don's
Okay.
for 1 second, because
Oh,
first of all, I absolutely agree. And I'm going to give you an example, right? And I'm going to give you an example about how you can improve. Okay. So right now, before COVID, right? If you were trying to do something in, I don't know, Westport, you would have to drive to the county to get a permit at the county. And you would have to sit with them many times, and I know because we served 700 clients this year at West. So, and it wasn't just for grants and just for revenue, it was for many, many things. You would have to drive to the county, you would have to sit with your planning officer, only to tell them that you had to go actually to the Fort Bragg office. And so then they would drive back to the Fort Bragg office. Right? But the Fort Bragg office was closed on the day that they had to do that, right? So then they're still going back to Ukiah because they couldn't get their paperwork. I mean, so, you know, it's like just, I'm thinking about carbon emissions here, right?
Right,
You know,
sure.
we need to, it's more than just, you know, I'm not even talking about expanding and environmental changes. I'm talking about like utilize technology where you can so that people are not in their cars. I mean, we live in a community that's really hard to get to Ukiah and from the coast and back and forth. And all of that carbon emission, I mean, one of the things that COVID has done is lessen that because we're not in our cars driving, we're doing these things. They could automate processes, not everything, I realize that, but many things could be automated. And so it's utilizing technology also to improve the environment. I feel is an opportunity to be looked at and invested in. So sorry, I had to say that because I just, you know, people forget how much we drive around this county
Yeah.
to get things done.
Well,
Mary?
good. Mary, did you want to say something?
Yes, I was hoping the Hispanic and the Native American communities were involved in this because 30% of the coast around here is a Hispanic population. They live in fear, in isolation, in otherness. There are not many who are involved in owning businesses. They're all in the service industry, and it's all low service industry. And I'm hoping that this population and these people have been included because they have been so segregated and live in so much fear. Just their last name puts them in the otherness department. And Action Network works with a lot of the Hispanic community, and only because of the anonymity and the privacy that Action Network supplies, that they do come. They come to Action Network for food bank rather than to the Baptist church because they are seen at the Baptist church and they are not seen at Action Network. You know, people don't, the rest of the community does not see them getting food there. And so they're hiding out of fear, out of otherness, out of isolation. And I hope that 2030 will include more of these people to have this part of the country and this part of the county upward mobile.
Mary, I'm going to answer that for Mary.
That's all I had to say.
Oh no, it's great information and it's so on point, right? We have a very large population of disadvantaged individuals and families that are not heard regularly, and it's so important to get that voice. And that is one of the reasons why the MACs have been so important. And I'll give you an example since Mary Ann's been doing such a great job. In Round Valley, they have a very large tribal presence. In fact, the second largest tribe in the state is the Round Valley tribe. but yet getting them to the table is virtually impossible. You have no idea how many emails and phone calls and sending physical people out to to drag folks to meetings. And I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's very, very difficult. So attempting to overcome those specific challenges has been something that I've been keen on doing. And in Round Valley specifically, I was privy to information about a grant that would allow for free Chromebooks to be given to Native children as long as they were going to school. And because I have contacts now in that community, because I can't get an answer from tribal leaders, I physically had my contacts from MAC physically contact the tribal leaders and tell them how important it was to get a list of children and to ask them if they wanted free Chromebooks for all of them. And it took a coordinated effort. And I'm hoping that because those actions over the holidays, this all happened over Christmas and New Year's, but because we were so adamant about ensuring that they were at the table, I'm hoping that those stories will resound now to other members of the community to say, yes, we do want to help you. We're not just knocking on your door to ask you for something. We want to help you. We want your voice at the table. And if you just mentioned this action network, getting me access to entities like that will only help endeavor these challenges that we want to overcome to be more equitable across all access and everywhere throughout the county and the region. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. And by all means, anyone who has direct access to these communities, if there's any kind of leadership there that's willing to talk behind the scenes, to me, I'm happy to bring them up to speed with what's been happening and how we can hear them and make allocations for to make their world better.
I'm sure that the Board of Action Network would be more than happy to work with you. I am on the board, and our Executive Director, Thais Mazur, would be more than happy to reach out and work with you. She works with the county all the time, the mental health and the food, and she lives up in Mendocino, so she has connected Action Network with Fort Bragg, Mendocino, and brought it together as a coastal community rather than just down here in the South Coast. And we really are trying to expand gardening throughout the community and open up our board to any and all who wish to join. We have had Native Americans and we have had Hispanics, but they don't last long on the board, and many times they're not present for board meetings. And it's very sad because we really, really want to reach out to all factions of the community. Seroptimists is the same way. I'm the president of the Seroptimists Club and have been a Seroptimist for over 40 years. So, it's difficult. It's truly difficult to reach out. And I know exactly what you're talking about, Una. Exactly what you're talking about.
Well, we're
Been there, done that.
Invitations to any organization, whether it's about West and what we're doing, or whether it's about Move 2030. I did present to the Seroptimists just recently in Ukiah. Which you may not know this, but West a year ago launched the Latinx program. So we have a whole parallel track to serve Spanish-speaking business owners. We've done it in webinars. We have advisors that are doing that. And as Una said, it's been very challenging. We have a position that's been open now for over a year for a Latinx coordinator position that we've been delighted to hire somebody who can work directly with the Latino community. And so I'm happy to pass that job description. Maybe you know some people, but it's there. And yes, we're really open to constantly sharing stuff. I know it takes time. It just takes time.
It does. It does.
Okay, may I say something? I feel pretty confident that, well, we're blessed with a council member who's a journalist. Tom, and I feel pretty confident that he can incorporate all these things that we've just talked about, including Mary Mobert's points, including Don's points. I'd like to hear still if Melissa has anything to say, and otherwise I think we should maybe take a vote on this motion we've had, or any last minute comments, okay?
No comment.
No comment from Melissa. Anybody else like to say something still? But I'm greatly in favor of Tom taking this bull by the horn and writing a nice letter. Go ahead, Tom, sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time on this, but it's a natural follow-up to what Mary Ann and Una were saying. Mary Ann's got a great big picture vision of this, and so has Una. It was my pleasure this year as a volunteer, to work on one little small part of this, developing a plan for an incubator that became part of a much bigger plan. I think overall, I don't know how many people were involved in this massive effort. It seemed like 50 or 60. In my group, one fellow who really impressed me was Jesse Burnett, who at that time was with EDFC as their interim executive director and has moved on. Jesse's a native, and his specialty is in enhancing communications with Native communities. And I reached out to Jesse just last week to talk to him about coming to Gualala and helping us reach out to Akashia population and get them more involved. He is keenly aware of the difficulties of communicating and the challenges in that. And I'd really like to tap his expertise and get him involved. The other person I wanted to cite on that group was Jesse Alvarado, who is a young 30-year-old young entrepreneur up in Covelo. And she really got me hooked into volunteering for this group because she told me about a Native woman there who came to her and said, you know, I want to start a food truck. And she didn't know how. She had no clue. She had no asset. And it wasn't a situation where she could go to some self-help group and get that kind of counseling. She could, but it's difficult for people in those kind of communities for all the reasons Una explained. And Mary Ann explained about coming into town and meeting with people and being shy about that. But a big part of our group ended up being talking about outreach and particularly inclusiveness to make sure that we're reaching out to the Hispanic and Native populations, making special efforts in that regard. So those are just two tiny examples of how those aspects are part of the fiber of everything that Mary Ann and Una have been working on for the last year. And I just wanted to share those from a personal example of what I saw on a minute level. As to Don's point about the environment, Gualala is about environment. We have to shape it for the future and protect it for the future and prepare for the future. Absolutely, or else we'll lose the paradise we have. I know the Coastal Commission is acutely aware of this as well. And part of the reason well, I won't go into too much on the Coastal Commission, but it has to do with, you know, they're putting new requirements on communities all the time. When they open up a local plan, suddenly that local community finds it has a lot more new requirements than it used to have. So that's something to think about as we talk about planning in this community. Anyway, I've taken up enough time. Again, my thanks to Una and Mary Ann, and I'm ready to hear the vote.
So Tom, this letter, you're going to draw a draft of it and send it to us fellow council members, or how are you going to do this?
We won't have a time to draft it. I think just ask you for permission to go ahead and write it and send it in. I'm pretty familiar with all these details. I'll certainly incorporate the points that have been raised tonight.
Great. And it's going to the Board of Supervisors, is that correct?
Correct. It'll be it'll be as short as I can write it, which is a short letter is more effective than a long one, but we'll make sure where we cover the points you're talking about.
And you'll copy us all with it, right?
Yes.
You will copy us all. Thank you.
Yes.
After he's completed it. Okay, let's call a vote here. Tom made the motion. I made the second. Let's take a voice vote here. Don?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Robert? I'm an aye. And Tom?
Aye.
Okay, Tom. Thank you very much for taking this on and for writing this letter. And thank you to our guests, Mary Ann and Una, for all the input you gave us tonight. That was very educational.
I will send the deck to Una, and then she'll forward it on to all of you so that you have copies of it and stuff. And don't hesitate. I mean, I'm here, Una's here. We're available for questions. And if you think anybody else needs to see this presentation or we need to share it with somebody else, please let us know and we'll be happy to.
If I get a chance, Mary Ann, I'll break this out as a separate video and put it up on the local Facebook pages so that people can see everything we talked about here tonight.
Okay, that sounds great. Great. Well, happy to be here, and thank you again. Thanks for inviting me, and we'll continue to do this work. It's there's a lot ahead, a lot of good things. So thank you.
Godspeed to you.
Good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
Thank you, Marianne and Una.
Bye, Una.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. So that ended up probably being the biggest part of our agenda tonight. We've taken care of that council matter number C then, correct, Tom?
Correct. Yeah, I have
Okay.
nothing to report on the relocation effort this week, so that's all of
Okay.
C.
Don made a great presentation on number D, on item D. So we're down to Telecommunications Ad Hoc Committee.
The only thing I have there tonight is reporting on our YouTube stats, which were record highs last month because of Streetscape. And I'm just going to go look at a current number here. But last time I looked, our presentation on Streetscape was up around 400. Let me see. Yeah, it's 402 right now. And our meeting itself got over 60 views. So we had 460 views plus last month, which is about over 4 times what we usually get. So that's, you know, we're reaching out to more of the community. We now have 18 followers on our YouTube page, which is not bad. Every time we post something, they get a notice. I'm realizing more and more, I haven't had a chance to talk to Don about this, but I'm realizing more and more that even when we go back to physical meetings, we're going to have to figure out a way to continue to do this part of it, because we reach so much more of the community when we open it up and communicate with the community this way.
Yeah, because the likelihood of hitting those numbers in a physical meeting you never make it.
We had no members of the public here tonight.
Right.
Wow.
But they watch it maybe at a later point.
Yes, people are busy. Meeting at their dinner time is not maybe the best time of the week for them, but they can come and watch it. We get a lot of views on the weekend, which I'm very glad to see. And we do want to hear from the community. We want to include everybody's views.
Why don't we change our meeting time if so few people can make it?
Well, the point is that since this all happened with COVID, we've had to do these virtual meetings, and maybe we should just continue to do just virtual meetings. I mean, Don said this a long time ago, I remember, that there's going to be a lot of things that come out of this that may work, it can work to our advantage, or we might learn stuff where we might not go back to a regular meeting at the community center.
Well, there's some legal aspects to that state law, but we'll have to wait and see what the county and the state decide on this. I think they will recognize the same things we're saying and realize that this is a much better way to reach out to the community. We probably will have to have a physical presence. The prior rule was there had to be at least one person available to meet with the public during the meeting. And if that means that I go down to the community center and do the meeting from there instead of my den, that's a small sacrifice to pay.
Plus, we couldn't get 462 people into that room.
That's twice the capacity.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to hear that so many people have looked at last month's meeting. That really is wonderful. It represents about 5,000 or 6,000 people if it were being held in Santa Rosa.
That was a big meeting too.
Yeah. And so before we started to have these Zoom meetings, we did put the audio recording of the meeting on the website, didn't we? Or we tried to do that?
Yeah, we did. It was kind of a complicated process. So is this, by the way. But it was a complicated process, and we had no way of tracking how many people looked at it.
Right, yeah.
Having some visuals and having maps and, you know, I'm learning to do better presentations. I didn't have any PowerPoints to share with you tonight, but it was handy to pull up that map of Gualala when we were talking about
Sure.
the chargers.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of things we can do online that we couldn't do before. The
Exactly.
streetscape presentation last time was, I broke that out as a separate item because there was so much interest in it. But beyond my 14-minute slideshow, there was also a 20-minute discussion that I think was really important because, you know, we heard from John and who's the fellow from Cyprus, Bill, and Mary and other people who had strong opinions about what was going on. And I think they spoke to our listeners and helped generate more comments in the community. So it's really great to incorporate those voices in what we do.
Plus it lets Caltrans know that 462 people plus whomever attended the meeting are interested in the GCAP project and want to really hear what's going on and have some input into it. And that's good. That's a lot of this community. It's huge.
Yeah, that we got about twice as many views on our presentation as the entire town meeting for Caltrans got. There were about 65 people there and about 130 people have watched it afterwards, which is great. And we helped promote that meeting, and I'm glad we did. It got a lot more people interested in that meeting for them. And it also helped explain the issue to our local community from a local perspective, as opposed, I think the Caltrans presentation actually made more sense when you heard it from the local point of view first. So I think that was very helpful to everybody in the community to hear all that.
And they have the benefit of hearing it twice and hearing it from the different angles. So it's more comprehensive to the public. Unless you're involved with it day by day for year after year, I mean, you can miss a lot of what's going on.
It all grinds so fine.
So that's a good report, though, from you two on the Telecommunications Committee. Should we move on?
Yes.
Letter F, Water Ad Hoc Committee. That's Donald and I. We didn't meet this past month, but I wanted to suggest something, Don, and that would be that we maybe, and I've heard this from our audience members in the past months, but that we maybe invite somebody from our local water company or maybe even their engineer to one of our upcoming meetings so they can explain a little bit what's going on from the water perspective. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea. Maybe also somebody from the sewer district.
Okay, yeah.
Because didn't you mention last meeting and the meeting before that they were maybe considering a water storage site?
Yeah, I did bring that up because one of the board members on the GCSD had suggested putting in a pond, I remember. But maybe, like I said, either inviting a representative from the North Gualala Water Company or their engineer, who happens to double as the engineer for the GCSD, for the Community Sewer District. So maybe just asking to see if the engineer would come to one of our virtual meetings would be a good idea. He could give us a perspective on well, what do you think? That's
Yeah,
overlapping.
except if we just get an engineer, I mean, an engineer is going to give us their opinion maybe on technical issues, you know, what can be done or how this could or could not be done depending on, you know, certain environmental situations that they face, whatever. But, you know, an engineer is not somebody from management who actually is part of a decision-making process to move forward on a new project or something.
Okay, remember.
I'm really starting to think now that we're going to be in trouble at some point here in Gualala with regards to water.
Yeah.
I mean, this is looking like another drought year.
Mm-hmm.
It's rained a little bit lately, which is great, but
Okay.
the river should be flowing really full right now, and it's not.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's
We haven't
due to-
had that much rain.
No, we have not. And
No,
last year we didn't have that much rain either.
I only have 20.75 inches in my garden. And this time last year, which was the worst year ever since I've been keeping track, was 39 inches rather than 20.
Yeah, and
Terrible.
the 10-year average or something I was reading recently is we should be around the 40
Yes.
inch, 40 to 50 inches versus this 20 to 30.
Yes.
Don, as a fellow committee member, what do you think about, we invited David Bauer once to one of our virtual meetings. Should we start there and then from there inviting somebody else? What do you think? He's hands-on, man.
David Bauer would be fine, certainly.
Start somewhere, huh?
Yeah, but it might be nice to have somebody else who has a little bit different perspective than the owner manager of the local water company.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, what is the local water company doing other than just running their operation the way they've ran it for I don't know how many years now?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone from the timber company who can tell us why they are trying to cut timber so that everything slides down and blocks the water coming in, or whatever they're doing. It would be a good perspective to see why they are cutting timber in the riparian areas, etc., and maybe even someone from the local state water board. This is a district from the State Water Commission. Maybe someone from that water board could talk to us about the moratorium and what we would have to do to get out of the moratorium, and so on. So there are two people that could be invited.
I like that idea. Maybe somebody from the county or from the State Water Resources Control Board.
Yes, that's what I was.
Don, what do you think?
I
Or
like
Tom,
that.
what do you have to suggest, Tom?
Yeah,
I like that idea.
for the
Okay.
Water board, someone from the water board.
Okay, Melissa, good to hear from you. Tom, what do you have to say?
Well, I want to remind the council that we made a commitment to trying to put together a half-day program on this whole issue, including timber, including water, including the water company, including environmentalists and Fogger and others, and bring them all together. I don't think our meeting on a Thursday night would be the best place to do that.
Okay.
I think we could probably talk for 5-6 hours easily on that, and to give people really an opportunity to open up and talk about these issues in a cooperative way. I think we need a bigger forum for that. So I would encourage us to think about doing that somehow, perhaps as either an online seminar or a half-day seminar on a weekend when we can meet again. But I think that's where we got to go. In the short term, maybe the committee can get together in between meetings and just bring in one guest for our meeting to talk about a particular aspect. Perhaps the engineer that works for both the water company and GCSD could be a good start on that. We could kind of build it step by step.
Okay, we've heard lots of ideas. Don and I will put our heads together and we'll bring something back to the council, okay?
Yeah, let's get together over the next month and plan something out, and
okay, Don.
then try to make it happen over.
Yeah.
You know, if we're going to have some kind of a forum or larger, online discussion of these, really important issues for this community, it's going to take a little time to organize that and get our people together, get some key people with some real information together so that we can then explore these issues in more in-depth way and make sure that this information is shared with the community.
Yeah, and like Tom says, it's going to have to be devoted to just that, and it's going to take 4 to 6 hours on a given day to
And
deal.
Friends of the Gualala River and the River Bend Park people and
County
the
planners.
Gualala Park people.
Okay,
County
well,
planners too. We should include somebody from the county planning department, which I know they're real busy, but I know they'd really like to be part of that.
Absolutely.
Julia, Acker, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Don and I will take it from here. We don't have to.
Yeah, okay.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay, we've heard a lot of.
stakeholders.
Okay, Don, we'll get together next week or the week after for sure. Okay.
And someone from
okay.
business.
I don't know.
Someone from the business community.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Economic development's part of it.
Absolutely.
Planning's part of it. Housing is part of it. It's
Absolutely.
all ties together in a big way. And you know,
Yes.
one of the best things I have attended here in Gualala a while back was Earth Day. I think it was last year. Seems like years ago. But we had a great half-day seminar. I don't even know who put it on, but it was a great session on Earth Day and touched on a lot of these same issues from a different point of view.
The Ayurvedic group, I think, put it together.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So.
but this I think really should pretty much focus on water and all the issues surrounding water, and there are many.
Narrow it down a bit.
That I think should be the focus.
Okay, but we'll Don and I will kickstart this and get this going.
Good deal.
Okay.
Okay.
Water only. Let me just make that note. Okay. So that's that item on the agenda. G, I'm still not aware of any new boundary map yet from Greg Warner, but I haven't checked in with him again. I try to make a point of it to do it on Fridays because that's when he's at the fire station up above town. So let me put a note to myself and I'll try to get up there tomorrow and ask him if there's anything new going on that, if he has that new boundary map or not. I'm not thinking it's going to change much from the current fire district boundaries, but if it does, that's what our new GMAC boundaries would become, because we're kind of coinciding our jurisdictional area with that of the South Coast Fire District. Okay, so I'll do that. Administrative Secretary Mobert's report.
I worked 20.8 hours with paying the PO box rent for 6 months of $28 rather than the $56, which is the total annual billing, because Robert said just pay 6 months. Materials were $29.54 with a total of $341.54.
Okay, and did you get paid for December yet?
Yes, I received that on the 1st of February.
Okay. January's I turned in.
Okay.
So, but January you haven't received yet, but we're only what, you usually get that by the 3rd week in the month?
I will, if you have already turned it in, hopefully
did.
they will have worked it today, which means it goes to the treasurer and should be paid by next Thursday. And
Okay.
then I should receive it around the 15th. If
Okay,
it's paid on Thursday, the 11th, then I should receive it on like the 15th,
okay, that's
maybe the 13th.
That's in 10 days roughly, Mary. If you haven't got it yet, tell me and I'll send them that same email with a reminder, okay?
Okay, because it took, what, almost 4 weeks to get the December payment.
Right.
As I said, I received it on the 1st and I deposited on the 3rd.
Okay, you and I will coordinate on that to make sure you're getting that regular cycle paycheck, okay?
Now, if I'm paid in February, or if I'm paid for January in the middle of February, it means it pays my March bills.
Okay,
I mean, that's the way it goes.
well, we just gotta be after them, okay? And remind them.
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Sure, thank you for your report. Vice Chairman Murphy's report.
Just share a personal note with you, and hopefully it'll inspire other people. I know there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy in our community and beyond. I'm happy to report that Pam and I were both invited to get our shots today by our healthcare provider. I want to encourage everybody to get out and get their vaccine. I've had a lot of personal friends, people I respect, say, I'm just not that sure about it. Well, we had no reaction whatsoever to it. I feel better that, we have our protection done, and I'm hoping everybody else will, because it's not just me getting a shot. If Don doesn't get a shot, I can give COVID to him. I can pass it along to him. People need this for their self-protection and to help reduce the rate of transmission in our community. If we don't reduce that rate of transmission, we're going to see more and more variations of the virus, and that could get really, really dangerous. So even more dangerous than what we're in right now. So please, if anybody has any hesitancy, be cheered by the fact that it's available now. You're going to be getting invitations. There are more opportunities to do this. Please, please, please get your vaccine and continue to wear your mask and wash your hands, because we're not out of this yet.
Right.
Ditto, ditto. I got mine on the 17th, Sunday the 17th. It was exceedingly professionally and caregiving experience. The lady in front of me had an anaphylactic shock. They were very caring and very sympathetic. They took her into the community center and watched her very carefully. Everyone was so professional and so very, very nice. Kudos to RCMS and what they are doing. It is really, really wonderful.
And let me quickly add, that's a very rare exception.
It is an exceedingly rare exception, but they were there. The ambulance was there. All of the medical people from RCMS were there. There were several doctors. They really cared for her in a very gentle, caring, very concerned manner. And I was very impressed by their professionalism and the way they, all of the actions and reactions that they had with everyone. And it was really well done. And as I say, my hat is off to RCMS for what they accomplished on the 17th when I was there. It was really, really well done.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Tom and Mary. I don't have much of a report tonight, other than it sounds like Gualala community. It sounds like the GMAC have a lot of resolutions here in this new year, and I saw the headlines in the ICO today, which was really satisfying to see that the RCLC has finally completed that purchase of the 112 acres south of town. So along with all the other things that we're doing and working on for the community, I think we've got a lot of energy and a lot of strength still going into this new year. So with some addition of a couple new council members, we're doing a lot of good here in the community. So thank you all for all the efforts you exhibit and put into this, and we got to keep going. We got to keep continuing. So that's all I really have here. But next we have to look at assigning and walking or seeing this new coastal development permit 2021-0001. It's the Bryson AT&T Mobility, it's called. What it really is, it's the addition of a microwave antenna, is it, or a microwave dish onto the existing, or what is now an existing cell tower facility. Have any of you seen what it looks like from Highway 1?
Yes.
Okay, I'd encourage you to go up.
It's the one north of town, right?
Yeah, go up to Big Gulch, walk the straight stretch if you want, or pull out, go to the pull out and look to the east and you'll see it. So I guess that's how these things happen, is they get the main structure in and then they start adding things on. So we've got to evaluate this request to add on the microwave dish.
So this is the new cell tower that was just recently put in place, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, so it is operational.
I don't know if it's operational, Don, but I know I can see it when I pay attention to looking that way on a small window driving south. You'll see it sticking up above everything else. So they're wanting to add something to it.
Yeah,
And,
when we approved this, it was made clear to us that they would be adding dishes from time to time to this.
Oh, I don't remember that, but okay.
That's the way cell towers are.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Isn't the microwave for long distance communication?
Yes.
That's what I figured.
The gentleman from AT&T is still attending. Maybe he would like to clarify a point.
He left early in the meeting,
Oh.
but
oh,
I think it would be appropriate for us to hear from him next month, as
Right.
well as members of the public.
So who would like to take this CDP on? Who would like to, we all should learn about it a little bit more and read the CDP, of course, but who's going to actually walk it or see it? If
I
that's,
did the original walk, see?
you did, that's right. Did you walk to the actual area?
Yep.
Okay, maybe somebody else this time. I don't mind doing it. Anybody else want to do it with me?
I think
I'll
it'd be
do
good
it.
to have the continuity of having Melissa return and follow up on this. I know she had a lot of interest in this subject, and Robert, I think it'd be great if you could participate too. I'd like to hear from the neighbors on this. The tower, as I remember it during our discussion, it was said that the tower wouldn't be much larger than the trees, but anybody who can see it from Highway 1 knows that it's way up there. It's much higher than the trees.
My recollection is that it was stated that it would be a little taller than the trees.
I'd
But
say it's more than a little.
Oh, is it? Okay. But it looks like a tree, doesn't it, from a distance? It just looks
No.
like a very tall tree, or what does it look like?
Go take a look.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
At the original meeting, there were about 15 or 20 neighbors who violently objected to having it put in and pleaded with you not to okay it.
Yeah, and then we had a lot of proponents also at our meeting back when, including the emergency services and others who really felt a need for it. So, and it was a chronology of things that I remember happening is there were other areas that were selected to put this tower up, and as we went on in years, it went further and further away from the center of town, which we all felt was good, but we didn't feel good about it being in that vicinity, in that neighborhood. But they still put it in the middle of a 60-acre parcel, Melissa, and that seemed to get us over the hump. But we're gonna have to have a whole nother hearing on this with lots of input again. So I don't know who. I'll walk it. Maybe Melissa will walk it again. I don't know, Melissa.
I don't know.
I think the issues around a microwave, facility there might be a little bit different than cell antennas.
They're all microwave. They all have microwaves on them. That's how the signal gets in.
Yeah, except a microwave, if it's a long distance, then it should be aimed somewhere and shouldn't just be blasted out everywhere.
No, I think it is aimed somewhere, but I think that's something to get into at our discussion, not tonight. This is just for assignment.
Okay, so who's Melissa and myself?
Maybe. I'm too tired to make a decision.
Well, we got to count on somebody to do this between now and next meeting. So how do we proceed?
Don sounded awfully interested in it, like he knew something about it.
Don, you want to do it with me?
Well, if Melissa, doesn't want to do it, I'll do it.
Okay. Let's you and I do it. And Melissa, you please read up on it so we can get all your input too, okay?
I'm trying desperately to figure out what to do with my car because my light for my tires has come on, and I don't know if there's anybody in town that will just do air pressure for my tires because I don't know how to do it.
You just go down to the 76 station. They'll help you.
Okay.
Okay, but Don and I will do this then, okay? So where else are we? What else are we doing here?
I do believe that I sent the minutes out from that hearing, the last hearing, what was it, December
I
of
think you did, yeah.
19, I do believe.
Okay.
I sent the minutes out to everyone so that you could read what happened at that meeting. As I remember, it was like 1.5 or 2 hours that we sat
Oh,
there and listened to people discussing this particular item.
Yeah. I recall you sent out the minutes. I haven't had a chance to read them though, but those were voluminous, yes. So thanks for
Yeah,
sending.
yes, it was a very, very long meeting, and a lot of people had their input, and the gentleman from Manchester went on and really had a lot to say several times, and
Oh, yeah.
there were people from out of town all over the place. So
Yeah. He was actually from Albion, that gentleman you're talking about, right?
I think he was from
Okay.
Manchester, Irish Beach.
We're going to be talking about this next month, right? So,
Yes.
Okay, onward. You guys want to get to adjournment, don't you?
Yeah, I'd like to move for adjournment.
Okay. Who wants to second that? Did I hear a second from you, Melissa?
I second that we adjourn.
All right,
we
2
adjourn.
hours flat.
All right, 2 hours even. That's a good meeting. Okay.
Vote.
Melissa,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Robert, aye. Okay, good job. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, good
Good
night.
night, everybody.
Talk to you
Have
soon,
a
Don.
wonderful, wonderful week, or month.
Okay.
Too bad.
Year.
I'll call you next
Bye.
week. I'll call you next
Pray-
week
pray-
Don, on the water.
And pray for more rain.
Really.
Oh, amen. From your lips to God's ears, babe.
Yeah. Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
See you later.